Every night, my husband fell asleep facing away from me. I laid there, wondering when I became invisible. Then I met someone who texted me just to ask, "How's your day?" It was so simple, yet it meant everything. One evening, as I watched my husband laugh at his phone, I thought, if he won't love me, someone else will. I've been married to Rick for almost 20 years. We live in Madison, Wisconsin. We have 2 kids who are both in college now. To the outside world, we were doing well. Big house in the suburbs. 2 cars. Good jobs. I'm a nurse. Rick works in IT. We smiled at church. We hosted barbecues in the summer. We sent out holiday cards with matching sweaters. But the truth is, we haven't really been married in a long time. I don't know the exact moment I stopped feeling like a wife and started feeling like a roommate. Maybe it was when the kids were little and everything was so busy. Maybe it was when his job got more demanding and he started coming home late. Maybe it was when I stopped wearing makeup to bed and he stopped noticing anything at all. But here's what I know, every night, Rick would fall asleep facing away from me. I'd lie there next to him, staring at the back of his head. The silence between us was loud. The space between us in bed felt like miles. He used to pull me close before falling asleep. Used to kiss my shoulder, say goodnight, love you. Now? Nothing. He started taking his phone into the bathroom. Changed his lock screen. Kept it under his pillow. I asked him once, "Who are you texting so late?" He barely looked up. Just work. I stopped asking questions. Stopped fighting it. I went on autopilot. Get up. Go to work. Come home. Make dinner. Smile. Nod. Do laundry. Pretend. He never noticed. Never asked me how I was feeling. Never said I looked tired or asked if I was okay. I could have been falling apart in front of him and he wouldn't have blinked. His name was Adam. We met through a fundraiser for the hospital I work at. He owns a small landscaping business and donated a service package for the auction. We were assigned to the same volunteer shift. He wasn't flirty or over the top. He was just kind. He looked me in the eye when he talked. Asked questions and actually waited for the answer. When I said something funny, he laughed in a way that felt real. I didn't think much of it at first. Just a nice guy. But he texted me later that night to thank me for helping organize everything. I said no problem. Then he texted again the next day. "How's your day?" 4 words. That's it. But something about that message hit me like a truck. I stared at it way too long. No one had asked me that in so long. Not like that. Not like they meant it. We started talking more. It wasn't romantic, not at first. It felt safe. Like talking to someone who actually saw me. Rick didn't notice I was texting more. Or if he did, he didn't care. Adam was also married. 2 kids. He said his marriage was quiet. That word stuck with me. Quiet. That's what mine had become too. We started having lunch once a week. Nothing shady. A public cafe near the hospital. We talked about work, our kids, our parents. We talked about how numb we both felt at home. I told him I missed being touched. Not sex. Just a hand on the back. A kiss on the forehead. Someone looking at me like they still cared. He nodded. Said, "I know exactly what you mean." That's when I knew we were in trouble. It was a Saturday. Cold and gray. I spent the whole day cleaning the house. Rick was out running errands, but he was gone for hours. When he came home, he smelled like beer. I asked if he went to the bar. He said, "Yeah, just a couple guys from work." I nodded. Said okay. Later that night, we were in bed. He was texting again, smiling at his screen. He turned away from me, as always. I stared at the ceiling. I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I just felt this weight inside my chest that made it hard to breathe. That night, I thought, if he won't love me, someone else will. Adam and I crossed the line. It wasn't planned. We were walking after lunch and it started raining. We ran under a bus stop and he looked at me in that way. That way. I don't know how else to describe it. The way someone looks at you when they see you. He kissed me. Just once. But I kissed him back. I pulled away, said this is a bad idea, and he agreed. But neither of us stopped. It was never physical beyond that kiss and a few long hugs. But emotionally? We were deep. We texted constantly. good morning, good night, everything in between. He asked me things like, are you sleeping okay, and did you eat today? Basic stuff. Stuff Rick used to ask. Stuff that mattered. I started looking at my life differently. I looked at the laundry I folded, the meals I cooked, the hours I worked, the way Rick would barely glance at me. I thought, what the hell am I doing? I didn't want to be the woman hiding in her own home, walking on eggshells, wondering if her husband even remembered her birthday. I started therapy. I stopped making Rick's lunch. I went to a movie alone. I bought a new coat. Nothing fancy. Just something that made me feel like me again. And when Adam told me he couldn't leave his wife, that he didn't want to hurt his kids, I understood. But I also knew I couldn't keep living like this. I waited until we were sitting on the porch, drinking coffee. I said, are you seeing someone? He raised an eyebrow. No. Why would you ask that? I shrugged. Because I feel like you haven't looked at me in 2 years. He didn't deny it. Didn't get angry. Just said, things change. Then he went back to checking his email on his phone. Sitting in my car in a Target parking lot, typing this on my phone. Trying to figure out my next move. I haven't ended things with Adam completely, but I know I need to. I don't want to be a side story in someone else's life. I haven't left Rick yet either. But the decision is getting clearer. I want to be with someone who looks at me. Who sees me. Who asks how my day was. It's been about 3 weeks since I wrote that first post. I didn't expect the amount of messages I got, some kind, some angry, a few that made me cry in the Target parking lot again. But it made me feel less alone, so thank you. A lot has happened since then. More than I can wrap my head around. I still haven't left Rick. But something happened that flipped everything upside down. It started when Rick's mother, Susan, called me out of nowhere. We're not close. We were, once, but over the years she drifted, like everyone else. Still, she's sharp. She doesn't miss much. She said, is everything okay between you and Rick? I froze. Asked her why she was asking. She said she called him last week and a woman answered his phone. Not me. Not his assistant. A younger voice. Said he's in the shower and hung up. I sat there silent, heart beating in my ears. Susan sighed and said, you don't have to tell me anything. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. I lied. Told her everything was fine. That night, Rick came home late again. I was sitting in the kitchen. Lights off. Just waiting. He didn't notice me at first. Jumped when he saw me. He said, Jesus, what are you doing sitting in the dark? I asked him who she was. He played dumb. I asked again. Who's the girl who answered your phone? He looked down at the floor, then back at me with the fakest confused expression I've ever seen. I don't know what you're talking about. That was it. That was his whole defense. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, I know you're cheating, Rick. And honestly, I'm not even mad. I'm relieved. He walked out of the kitchen without a word. 3 days later, I found out something that made everything worse. Adam's wife called me. Yes, his wife. She somehow got into his email, saw our messages. Saw the photos. Nothing inappropriate, just smiles, lunches, shared glances. But they said enough. She didn't scream. Didn't curse. She just said, I thought you should know he's not the only one. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? I asked. She said, Adam has done this before. Twice. He has a pattern. I felt cold. Like the air was pulled out of the room. I said I was sorry. She said, so was I. Then she hung up. I sat in my car after that, staring at the steering wheel, feeling like the world had cracked in half. I wasn't special. I was just next. I texted Adam. Told him we needed to talk. He didn't reply right away. Then, hours later, he just sent, I understand. I'm sorry. That was it. I haven't heard from him since. I didn't know whether to feel heartbroken or stupid. Maybe both. I told my therapist everything. She asked me, what do you want now, Anna? I couldn't answer. I don't know what I want. I just know I don't want this. Now, out of nowhere, Rick is trying. He started bringing me coffee in the morning. Leaving notes on the fridge. Asking me how work was. Telling me I look nice. It feels fake. Like someone told him, hey, your wife is slipping away, and now he's following a checklist from a self-help book. He even bought flowers. The kind I don't like. He never once said sorry. Never once admitted anything. I feel like I'm being love-bombed by a stranger who's wearing my husband's face. 2 nights ago, I got a message on Facebook from a woman I don't know. Her name is Melanie. She said she used to work with Rick. Her message started like this: I don't want to cause trouble, but I think you should know something. Turns out, Rick didn't just cheat once. He's been sleeping with multiple women from work. According to Melanie, it's a known thing. He's discreet, but not that discreet. It's been going on for years. One of the women left the company after things got messy. Another is married with kids. Melanie said she wanted to tell me years ago, but didn't feel it was her place. I thanked her. I sat with that message all night. Years. Years of lying to my face. Years of me thinking I was the broken one. Years of wondering what I did wrong. Tonight, Rick came home early. He brought takeout. He tried to joke with me like we were fine. Like everything was normal. I couldn't take it anymore. I put my fork down and said, I know about all of it. Melanie. The girl who answered your phone. The others. He froze. I said, you don't even have to lie anymore. I don't care who they are. I care that you stopped loving me and didn't have the decency to tell me. He didn't deny it. He didn't admit it. He just said, I don't know what you want me to say. I looked him in the eye and said, I want you to admit that I deserved better. He didn't say a word. I'm sitting in our bedroom. He's asleep downstairs. I can hear the hum of the TV. It's 1:37 a.m. I packed a small bag and it's in the trunk of my car. I'm not leaving yet. But I might. Soon. I don't know where I'll go. But I know what I won't go back to. After that last confrontation, Rick shut down. Completely. He stopped trying. No more coffee. No more flowers. No more fake smiles. Just silence. At first, I was relieved. No more pretending. But then, things got weird. A few days ago, I got a call from our bank. They flagged an unusual charge on our joint account. A hotel room. 2 nights. In Chicago. I haven't been to Chicago in over a year. Definitely not in the last week. I asked the bank to send me the transaction log. Turns out, Rick had booked 3 different hotels over the last 2 months. All out of town. All under the same card. I confronted him again. Asked why he was booking hotel rooms in Chicago and Green Bay. He said he needed space to think. I asked, think with who? He didn't answer. Just said, it's complicated. So I did something I'm not proud of. I went through his email. He'd been using a second email account. Hidden, but linked to one of our old shared devices. He forgot to log it out. That's how I found the messages. Hundreds of them. Not just flirty texts. Full conversations. Plans. Photos. Hotel bookings. Conversations with 3 different women. 3. He had a whole schedule going. 1 in Chicago, 1 in Green Bay, 1 here in Madison. One of them sent him a video. I didn't watch it. Couldn't. But I saw the thumbnail. It was her. In his t-shirt. In a room that looked a lot like one of those hotel invoices. I felt sick. Not angry. Not even heartbroken. Just, used. Like all these years were some weird cover for his double life. And the worst part? He never once looked guilty. Our daughter, Ava, came home for the weekend. She's 21. Smart. Observant. Way too perceptive for her own good. She noticed something was off right away. We were in the kitchen. Rick was upstairs. She looked at me and said, "Are you and Dad okay?" I didn't lie this time. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. She sat down. Looked me in the eye. "I saw something a while ago," she said. On Instagram. Some woman posted a picture with Dad. They were at a Cubs game. She tagged him. It was weird. I asked why she didn't say anything. I didn't want to believe it. She pulled out her phone. Scrolled. Found the post. There he was. Rick. Sitting next to a woman I've never seen before, wearing a Cubs cap, smiling like a teenager. The post was from 2 months ago. He told me he was in Ohio for a conference that weekend. And just when I thought it couldn't get more complicated, Adam messaged me again. After weeks of silence. He said he and his wife are separating. That she kicked him out. That he's been thinking about me constantly. That he misses me. He asked if we could talk. For a second, a very brief second, I felt that old feeling. That pull. But then I remembered what his wife said. I said, lying to them is lying to me too. He nodded. Said he understood. And then he told me something that wrecked me. Adam said he had met Rick once. A few years ago. At a work event. A mutual connection through the hospital charity stuff. He said, I didn't put the pieces together until after everything blew up. But. I knew your husband. A little. I asked what he meant by knew. He looked at me and said, Anna, your husband tried to hit on my wife. 2 years ago. My mouth went dry. He said Rick came onto her at a conference mixer. Got too close. Called her gorgeous. Asked if she wanted to get out of here. She told Adam. They argued. Adam confronted Rick, who denied everything and brushed it off like a joke. I sat there in silence. Staring at the dirt path under our feet. Rick tried to sleep with Adam's wife. And 2 years later, I end up entangled with him. What are the odds? What kind of twisted circle is this? I haven't told Rick that I know everything. Not yet. I'm gathering it all. The emails. The bank charges. The photos. The Instagram tag. Even the messages from Melanie. I'm saving it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But I want to have it. I want proof. Not because I want revenge, but because I need to remind myself that this really happened. That I'm not imagining it. I'm still sleeping in the same house. Same bed. But I don't speak to him unless I have to. I'm watching him now, honestly. Watching how someone can live so many lives and still sleep soundly at night. He fell asleep last night like he always does, facing away from me. I laid there again, wide awake, heart pounding. But this time I wasn't wondering what I did wrong. I was wondering how long it would take to erase him from my life. I didn't plan it. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wanted to leave quietly, with my head held high and my proof zipped up in a folder on a flash drive. But sometimes the truth doesn't wait for your timing. Sometimes, it shoves you face first into the fire. It was our anniversary. 19 years. Because I was done pretending. There were 6 of us at the table. Me, Rick, his friend Mark and Mark's wife Jill, and another couple we've known forever, Devin and Carla. All old friends. All the kind who believe in smiling through everything. We were 2 drinks in when Carla leaned over and asked, so, how are things between you two? Still going strong after all these years? She said it with a laugh. Rick smirked. I don't know what snapped inside me. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was the years of silence. Maybe it was the photo I saw that morning of him at a bar in Chicago with one of his women, her hand tucked into his lap. I looked at Carla, smiled, and said, well, we're not really married anymore. He just hasn't moved out yet. The table went quiet. Rick looked at me, stunned. Anna. What are you doing? I took a breath. Reached into my bag. Pulled out the envelope. Laid it on the table. Everything's in here. All the hotel receipts. The emails. Even the Instagram post where you're holding another woman's hand. His face drained of color. Jill reached over and grabbed the envelope, eyes wide. Mark whispered, Jesus Christ. Rick stood up. Not here. Can we talk outside? I stood too. No. You don't get to hide this. You hid enough already. The restaurant was quiet now. People nearby were definitely listening. I didn't care. He left the restaurant. Just walked out. Didn't pay. Didn't look back. Mark followed him. Jill stayed and apologized to me for everything, even though it wasn't her fault. Carla looked shell-shocked. Devin tried to break the tension. If you need a place to crash for a bit, we have a guest room. I nodded. Thank you. I paid the bill. Then I went home to an empty house. Rick didn't come back that night. He stayed at a hotel. I know because the charge hit the account the next morning. 2 days passed. Silence. Then I got a long email from him. He apologized. For everything. Said he didn't know why he did what he did, that he was broken, that he never stopped loving me, he just didn't know how to show it. Blamed stress. depression, loneliness. Said he wanted to try again. I didn't reply. Ava found out everything. Not from me. Someone sent her the restaurant video. It had made its way to Facebook. Someone at the next table posted a clip of the confrontation. No names, but enough faces visible that people started connecting dots. She came home angry. Not at me. At him. She confronted him the next week. I wasn't there, but she told me later he tried to say it was complicated. Not divorce, yet. Just enough to separate our finances, our house, and our lives. He's living in an apartment now, on the west side. I'm still in the house, at least until I figure out my next move. Adam tried to reach out again. I blocked him. I didn't want to be anyone's escape hatch. I want to be someone's choice. I don't feel strong. I'm not posting this to be inspirational. I'm just a woman who got tired of disappearing in her own home. I stayed too long. I excused too much. But I finally looked around and said, this isn't love. This is survival. And I want more than just surviving. A week after he moved out, Rick came by to get a few more things. He stood in the doorway and said, you used to smile when I came home. I looked at him and said, you used to come home to me. Then I closed the door. People say betrayal feels like a knife. But it doesn't. It feels like silence. Like watching someone fall asleep next to you, night after night, as if you aren't even there. And then one day, you wake up. And you are gone.